like to call this meeting to order, the Board of Selectmen, Thursday, November 16th, 2017, 7 o'clock. First, I'd like to welcome our new board member, Bob Sikansky.
Thank you.
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
Congratulations. First up, we have a tax classification hearing. We have the Board of Assessors. Would you like to come forward?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How's everyone today?
Good evening, Steve. Bob, congratulations.
Thank you. Ditto. Thank you.
Do you want to just go ahead?
Sure.
Oh, do you all have? Yeah, you do.
Mhm.
Just want to make sure we all have the literature.
All right, so it's that time of year again, so we talk about the classification and whether we're keeping a single or split tax rate here in town. So if you look at page 2 of the packet that I gave you, we are currently discussing step 6 of the process. So I just want to go over a few numbers here, just to update everybody about the year. So first paragraph, the levy. In Bolton, the levy is to be raised, is estimated to be $21,063,608. This represents a 3.3 increase over last year's levy of $20,384,068. Caveat to this is we do have the special town meeting over at Camp Virginia, and so this could change depending on how the vote goes on that. So this represents our approved budget from last May and all our approved values from Department of Revenue as they stand right now. New growth this year was quite good. A lot of new homes ended up popping up and being finished completely, which was, to my surprise, but a pleasant surprise. So we have $378,630 of new growth this year.
That's nice.
Yeah, so that represents 19 new homes. Let's see. Is that what I said earlier? 19. And then we had a decent amount of growth on personal property. Even though our overall personal property value dropped a little bit, we had some good personal property growth.
What does that mean?
So our overall valuation of all our personal property accounts actually came down. But with personal property, any additions over the last year's value is considered growth. So we can capture any of those additions in our growth figures for the current fiscal year.
Could you just explain what personal property means? Because it means something different to you than it means to everyone else in the room.
So personal property is typically for businesses, their personal property that they own. Depending on the business, it could be desks, it can be furniture, it can be inventory.
All the capitalized items.
Correct. For instance, for us, personal property is also telephone poles and wires, which is valued by the state. The cell towers and antennas are part of the personal property that we get. Also, our solar developments come in under personal property. So to skip down, just to give you a breakdown of our levy, on page 3 here. So fiscal 17's beginning levy was $19,037,065. Your Prop 2.5 increase is $475,927. Add in our new growth revenue of $378,630, which gives us our fiscal 18 levy limit of $19,891,622. And then you add in our debt that we still have, $1,468,158. So that gives us where we are right now with the $21,063,608. On the bottom, you can see our major property classes. So residential is our largest valuation class here in town, and it continues to grow while our commercial and industrial and personal property continue to shrink. So 93.188% of all our valuation comes from residential property. Well, 6.8% is commercial, industrial, personal property. That's a reduction. Last year, we were at 7.5% commercial, industrial, personal.
Most of that decrease in commercial due to the devaluation of the
Wires.
No, well, not only wires, but the golf course.
Golf course?
International.
So based on the reduction of our commercial base, it's the board's opinion that we should keep a single tax rate in the town.
You would need well over 20%. Usually it's cutoff point is around 23% for a town like ours.
Right.
To justify a dual rate, just to begin to justify
Right.
a dual rate, and at 6.8, we're not even
Right.
in the realm.
Right.
So if you look at our other graph spreadsheet there, currently at a single tax rate based on the current levy and valuations, we'd be looking at $20.66. So a little bit of a decrease in the tax rate from last year of 21.20, I believe. And you can see, based on the grid, if we did like a 15% shift to the commercial, you'd be talking a $20.43 residential rate and a $23.76 commercial rate, which would also affect all of our chapter properties that we have in the community, which is quite substantial.
Right, right. And another way to look at it, I think, is if you wanted to decrease the residential tax rate by 1%, because it doesn't even go all the way to the 1% change here, right?
Well, this is, each one of these lines represents 1%.
Okay, all right.
Up to a max that you can do of 1.5. I mean, yeah.
Well, actually, if you wanted to lower it $1 per thousand,
Yeah.
Then
you're
we'll go
looking
all
at
the way.
A major.
major.
Yeah.
So if we went from 2066, the chart only goes to $19.90, so not quite $1. The commercial
Yeah.
rate would have to be 31%. So it doesn't
It doesn't
work.
do that.
Exactly.
So based on a single rate of 2066, our average single-family valuation has gone up from 484.9 to 514.200. And the average tax bill based on that valuation will be $10,623. Last fiscal year, the average tax bill was $10,280. So we're looking at a $343 increase overall for the entire fiscal year.
The only subject to change would be if the Girl Scout was taken on, and that would increase it approximately, because we don't know exactly how the loan is structured. We were never given that information, but it would be about 10 cents additional to the 2066.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're here to have us vote on keeping it a
Yes.
single tier tax?
Yes, and normally we have you sign the LA5, which is the report of
After you
the excess levy capacity. But because of that we can't have you sign it tonight because we have a
Right.
special town meeting.
What I will do, with your permission, at the town meeting, if it were to be voted down, I will bring it based on it not being accepted. And then because we're really cutting it into December, we're really cutting it close. So after the meeting, if it were voted down, I can get your signatures and we can send it into the DOR.
Right.
If that's acceptable to you folks.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that'd be fine with us.
We can do that because the selectmen will be posted for the meeting.
Yeah.
So you could do that then, and be properly posted.
Thank you.
But it probably can't, it probably won't hurt to vote on the single tax rate.
Oh, I think you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tax.
Oh, no,
you can
you-
vote on the
Yeah,
single
yeah,
tax
yeah.
rate. The only thing that is kind of up in the air is the signing this L85.
Right.
Which really is just the reporting of excess
Right.
levy capacity, which is, as it stands now, $296,171.98.
So there's this section, selectmen to read, is that?
Yes, so that would be where you would read that and actually vote to keep a single tax rate.
I'll be happy to do the motion. Make a motion that the Bolton Board of Selectmen votes in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, as amended, the percentage of local tax levy which will be borne by each class of real and personal property relative to setting the fiscal year 2018 tax rates, and set the residential factor at 1 with a corresponding CIP shift of 1, pending certification of the town's annual tax recap by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you. I know a special time of year.
It's like a car wash.
We'll see you at the town meeting.
All right, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a public hearing to consider the application of Suburban Propane, Inc., acting on behalf of the town of Bolton for a license to store 5,000 gallons of propane in 5 1,000-gallon underground propane tanks at the Florence Sawyer School, 100 Mechanic Street, Bolton, Massachusetts, 01740. I think we have Rebecca Baker, Deborah Wyman, and Keith Beardsley as representatives of Suburban Propane. Please come forward.
Thank you.
You don't have one of our numbers.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Hi, I'm
Hello.
Rebecca Baker. This is Deborah
Deborah
Wyman.
Wyman.
Nice to meet you.
And I am not
Keith Bartley.
He was a tech, he was on an emergency call tonight, so.
That's Timothy McGinn, our operations manager.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing us.
Tim McGinn.
So this project is going on because of the installation of the new boilers at the Florence Sawyer School that are being funded under the Green Communities Grant that we were awarded in order to support the project. We need approval of these 5 1,000-gallon propane tanks.
So what is, don't we have a limit on propane in tanks, buried tanks in the bylaws?
I don't know that we do.
Okay.
I don't know that we do. I know that we need the approval of the Board of Selectmen to allow, to have them buried, but I don't believe this is in violation of any bylaws.
Okay, good. What can you tell us about the project?
Okay. I will tell you what I know. We currently service several different schools. We do currently service the Florence Sawyer School with 2 120-gallon water capacity propane tanks. I believe that service the hot water at this time. We also do have other tanks, I believe, at the Emerson School as well. We were approached by different members of the school district, as well as on behalf of the town, to provide propane tanks to support the new boilers that would be installed. It's my understanding that 2 boilers are in need of pretty much almost immediate transition, especially for the upcoming heating season. And then there's a plan, I believe, in place to transition the other 2 boilers over at some point next year. So then all of the 4 boilers will be running off of the propane tanks. The combined BTU demand of all of the boilers is 3.6 million BTUs. What determines the number of propane tanks that are applicable for this particular use is in relation to the BTU output that the propane tanks can provide. Buried tanks, we prefer to go with them on a scale project such as this one, simply because they are protected against temperature if they're put in the ground below frost level. You do get more of a BTU output from the propane tanks, therefore providing, for lack of a better term, more juice to be able to power the units effectively. If they're above ground, they're subject to temperature variation. Each underground propane tank, I believe, is able to give you, I think it's either 726,000 BTUs or 874,000 BTUs per hour. Therefore, the need to be able to install 5 of them lined up right against each other. They would all be tied in together, okay, so that they would all draw down in equal measure. And together, the 5 of them would be able to give you the proper BTU output needed to power those boilers effectively. It would involve installing the 5 1,000 underground tanks. I believe there's already been an excavator or a contractor already commissioned to be able to do the excavation, and then also to lay concrete slabs as well for the tanks to be strapped and secured to when they're underground. The site will be prepared for the excavation and the slabs. We will be installing and craning the propane tanks into place, securing them and strapping them to the concrete slabs. We will also be running approximately about 100 feet or so of gas line, underground gas line. I believe it's probably going to be about 3/4 of an inch to an inch in diameter. And we'll be running that off of the 5 tanks that are tied together, going up a slight slope across a section of the small driveway, and then over to meet the existing gas line where our 2 120-gallon tanks currently stand against the building. So that is pretty much the scope of the work.
Approximately where are the tanks going to be buried?
The tanks will be buried if you're facing the front of the school. If you go around to the right of the school, there is a section of driveway where you have the school right here, you have the driveway, you have basketball hoop, and then you have the field.
Right.
There's a small triangular section of field that's down like maybe a small gradual slope. There are several large boulders at the far left end, and then there's a tree in the back, and then to the right is a slope back up to the parking lot. That section of triangular land gives us the perfect amount of room that we would need to be able to install the 5 1,000-gallon tanks. It's under my understanding as well that there will be fencing put around the entire area afterward as well.
And as far as the timeline goes, we're hoping to get, well, not hoping, we're planning on getting the excavation done and the tanks buried, have that work done by the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, starting the work, I think, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, doing the Wednesday, the Friday, and then going into the following week. We're hoping to get it completed before the return from Thanksgiving, but we haven't been able to get there, so. And then, so that'll be the excavation work, and then the installation of the boilers will be, I think, about 2 weeks after that, if I remember correctly. We had a site meeting this morning to review the schedule.
So previously, the current system's running on oil?
Yes.
Okay. And so those tanks will be removed, or they'll just stay?
Well, they wouldn't be removed yet because there'll still be some oil boilers remaining. But I think the vision would be, I would want the vision to be that once we do the complete switch over to propane, that the tank be removed.
So are there any safety issues with buried propane tanks next to schools?
There are not now. We are following the proper NFPA 58 guidelines. We've met with Lieutenant Farrell as well from the fire department on site, and have gone over those regulations and setbacks as far as proper crash protection, because it is adjacent, obviously, to driveway and parking lot areas. That has been addressed with him and prepared for as well. The setbacks, we do follow along with federal code, again mentioned in NFPA 58. So we do abide by those, and the area does meet those standards. As far as the propane tanks themselves, they are steel construction. They do have a special coating around them. Also, when we do install them in the ground, we install what we call anode bags. They're filled with magnesium, I believe, and a few of other, chemicals, if you will. Those are placed in at various points around the tank, and they are basically, they sort of like are activated in a way, I believe, when the soil is around them. So it helps to prevent against any type of corrosion as the years pass as well. The only portion of the tanks that would be visible or really accessible after everything has been backfilled and covered up would just be about 5 foot tall or so stacks, what we call them stacks or chimneys, that would be sticking out of the ground. They'd have a cover over them, and the regulators as well as filling valves and measuring gauges would be inside of those stacks, therefore visible and accessible, therefore the need to be able to have the fencing around as well.
I just want to go back to location.
Certainly.
I understand you're going to go around the school, you're going to go to the far side of the driveway. Will these tanks be closer to the woods or closer to the existing main parking lot?
Existing main parking lot.
And the fence is, how many feet tall? What's it made of?
I am not 100% sure on the specifics of that. I know that that had been discussed, I believe, with the contractor that was hired as far as to perform the excavation and the site preparation and what have you. I know it was also discussed with Lieutenant Farrell as well, to make sure that we do have the proper height, that there's 2 means of egress, and there will also be locks on there as well. So that will be gated and secured. There was talk about additional crash protection as well, whether that be boulders or what have you at the very tops of the parking lot or around that area. I believe there's a bus line, I guess, or a bus pickup line that is sort of at the top of that driveway. So that has been discussed as well.
So some type of bollard either
Correct.
installed or boulders.
I believe they were talking about ballasts, yes, exactly, like concrete ballasts, and put in at certain, I think, 3 or 5 foot intervals.
So you're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Jonathan, our fire chief, is here for this
Oh,
hearing.
great. Chief Metzner, would you like to give us a report on this project?
Basically, at this point, Lieutenant Farrell met, as I'm sure has been discussed, met with the applicants at the original site visit, and all of the fire department concerns were addressed at that time by the applicants. So right now, I have no concerns at all. It's good as far as we're concerned.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Do we have a motion to approve the installation of 5,000 gallons of propane?
Close the hearing first.
That's a good point, you close the
Okay.
hearing first.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application of Suburban Propane to install 5,000 gallons of propane and 5 1,000-gallon underground tanks at the Florence Way School at 100 Mechanic Street, Bolton.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
very much
coming.
as well, appreciate it, you also, thank you.
We have a request for permission to hold the Christmas tree and menorah lighting celebration on December 9th. Someone from... Hello.
So Meg's not here. I'm not Meg.
I'm not Meg.
So I got the call. So we're looking to do basically the same event that we did over the past couple of years on the town common, which will be a holiday tree and menorah lighting with a bonfire. It's going to be on December 9th at 6 p.m. We're looking to get a police detail from 5 to 9. We've got Joel Bates providing music, Santa Claus, the Girl Scouts. Like I said, basically the same event we've run in the past. So we're looking for permission to do that and the possibility of helping out with the police detail.
You okay with the event?
Yes, we are. I already talked to Meg. One detail officer to get people across Main Street should be enough.
I had a meeting this afternoon with Bert Schnitzler and Liz Shefke to talk about a couple of upcoming projects still to be done.
Okay.
And while we were talking, it struck me that potentially the town may close on the property prior to this taking place. And I thought it might be an opportunity for some sort of brief ceremony. I thought it would be fun for the town.
That's a good idea, yeah.
You know, whether it's the metaphorical keys to the property being passed over to the town, or the passing of the torch, or whatever it is, but something to commemorate the transition of photos that could be in the paper so people can see that the project has been completed. I had the thought, it would take somebody else to figure out what to do, but they seem to like the idea,
Yeah.
so.
No, I'll take that back to Meg. We'll come up with something. And we'll get back to you, Don, on what it could be, but that's a great idea. 'Cause I know that Richard Jones, usually says a few things, a few words about community, et cetera, but we can work all of that into kind of a brief agenda, for the event.
And if it could be warmer, please. then
Yes,
that's-
exactly.
I'm fine with it.
Good? Yep.
Make a motion, we approve the request for permission to hold the Christmas tree menorah lighting celebration on December 9th, 2017 at the Town Common.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, looking
Thanks, guys.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have a request to place a real estate sign at 96 Hudson Road. Is Lee Freudenheim here?
Actually, sorry, I work for the Girl Scouts.
Okay.
They're the real estate agent. So my name's Mark Connolly. I'm the
Okay,
facilities
thank you.
director.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. So we were just coming to see, the real estate company told us we should come and talk to you folks about putting the sign up. It's a standard, for lease or for sale sign. It would be visible from the road, but closer to the fence. There are actually posts up there. Now, we took it, it was up, and I don't think we realized we were supposed to have a permit, and then we took it back down.
Okay.
So it's not there now, but the two wood
Right,
posts.
right. So it will be in the place that it was before.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I'm fine with it.
Fine with it?
Thank you, sir.
Make a motion to approve the real estate sign at 96 Hudson Road.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
We could have made this longer to make up for your drive.
Oh, that's right. That's great. I find it very interesting.
We have a request from the library trustees for a new roadside sign for the public library. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Bob, how are you? Good.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, thank you.
So if you pass the library every day like I do, you probably notice that the sign that we have up there now is canted at about 15 degrees. It's also deteriorating since it was put up as a construction library. So the trustees have enlisted the service of Duval Sign, Brian Duval here today, to design a replacement sign for that. Our goal is a couple of things. One is to provide something that's a little bit more sturdy and lower maintenance than what's in there now. And second, to give a little bit more visibility to the library's presence there. And then third, to actually give us some movable letters there so that we can make note of events that are going on in the library. So with that as an introduction, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Duval.
Other than what you see there in front of you, do you have any specific questions for me as far as materials?
If you could go over the materials of the posts.
Yes.
The stone wall, is that a planter, or is that just, so just walk us through.
So from the ground up, we've got a 36 inch by roughly 18 to 20 inch diameter hole. It will be direct burial in concrete. The post will be granite, requested by the library, and the planter, I guess if you call it that, will surround and bury the poles as well. It would match the aesthetic of the outside of the library as it is now, to just coalesce with the look.
So is it a planter or is it just a wall?
I have been advised, and we've spoken, I'm going to, upon approval, just put some 3/4 stone on the bottom of it, and then in the spring, we're thinking about putting some very low maintenance, low growing perennials probably.
And did you do the design of the sign at the Common? This looks similar? No. It looks similar to that sign. The granite,
Town style.
the granite posts and the apple tree.
Actually, we like that sign.
Okay.
Aspects of that sign, and that figures into some of our
I've been doing work
material.
with Kelly for a few years, so that's why she called upon me to come out and do it. And
Great.
the rest of the material is going to be aluminum and PVC.
So it's aluminum attaching from the granite to the sign, creating
Yes.
a frame, and then the sign's made of PVC.
Really just the part that you see is, that says Bolton Public Library will actually be suspended out from the face about an inch, and that's where the carving will be V-carved. So it will be a carved sign. The 3 wide triangle Club Thursday would be magnetic lettering that they can take on, instead of having something like a marquee with those plastic letters you see at a gas station. Not very pleasing, so I tried to come up with something that will be a little bit more pleasant to look at. And in that case, I should say that there will be steel behind that. Just a very thin piece of 20 gauge covered so that it will stick.
Great.
Good plan.
Looks good to me. Any other comments or questions?
No, that's good. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the...
1 second, sorry.
Good evening, gentlemen. Martha Remington, Chairman of the Bolton Historical Commission. I noticed the current sign was tipping. We have to remember that this is a national registered district. And the Common was a brand-new entity, a nice open area, and that sign was put up and it was approved. I haven't been able to approach the commission about this because I guess we weren't notified, which we probably wouldn't be because we're not trustees. But I feel that this sign is too modern. This is in front of a 1901-23 building. If it were over in the back by the parking lot where the new addition is, I mean, it's probably a beautiful sign, but sitting between those trees, which I hope won't be affected at all by any installation of a 2-post sign, it lacks historic character to go with what our former director Brown said was the most beautiful and his favorite building in Bolton. Thank you.
So obviously we care deeply about the library and its position in the town, and have done our best to select a sign with the traditional historic lettering, and to sort of keep it in fitting with the style of the town as per the town common. We're happy to discuss it with the historical commission.
Do you happen to have a picture now?
Sure, absolutely.
All I'm thinking of, we have a lot of
Do you
beautiful
have a color
signs around town.
one on your screen that you could show?
Most of them are 2-post
Martha
signs, which is
Remington.
great, but this one is going to be in the historic district.
So it's going to match.
It doesn't have those soft, curves that they have from 19th
cornices,
century.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lovely sign, but I guess we have to learn to adapt. Thank you.
Just so the colors will match the trim and the paint.
Yeah, Donna had sent us
Okay, good.
a JPEG of that, so we have seen what it was like.
Looks stronger. So I have no problem with it.
All right, then I will again make a motion that we approve the new roadside sign for the public library.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to it. Lots of signs. We're going to review a sign image for 727 Main Street. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how's everybody?
Good, thank you.
So this is for Countrywell Acupuncture. You have an office at Bolton Corners?
Yes.
And it's both of your businesses?
No, she's just,
Very
she's here for moral support.
Right.
So the last time you wondered which house it was, you thought it was the pink house.
Yeah.
So this is the house, so we thought we'd take its next to
Okay,
the
it's,
house.
no, it's not bubblegum pink, but I guess I saw it as kind of peachy pink. But
Yeah,
beige
it's
is
beige, but you could
accurate.
say that it does have a little, like if you,
Yeah.
a little tiny bit of a tip. Okay, so that's the house. And
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And the lamppost you want.
All right, and
So
so
you have
had
an
another idea. I
Yep.
mean, there's the lamppost, which
You
is
have an
very
existing
beautiful.
lamppost. That's
So
nice.
to put the sign on the existing lamppost instead of adding something
Mhm.
else is a possibility
Yeah.
with, and I'll show you the traditional
That's a
brown.
nice idea.
Okay, so
Something like
with something like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
That works for me.
And then, okay, so then we have two possibilities. This is going to be gold, but the designer didn't have a gold, so it won't be green. It will be sort of the, sort of the deep gold that you see in the signs in Bolton. The black will not be a black, it would be an off black, either, a brown black or a little bit of a faded black. And then the white would be more of a cream to match the shutters on the house. So it would be either or.
Yeah, I like the lighter one.
The lighter one, what color would you say that the broad light portion would be? Would it be a beige or?
This right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, cream to match the shutters of the house so
I
that it
think
would sort
that
of
would-
blend in. I don't want to do black and white because
No,
I think
that's-
it'll be,
You don't want it
to-
to be stark.
I don't want it stark. So if I were going to do this, I would do that kind of brown black that you see in town.
So where would the
either-
gold be on the one on the left?
Where
On the
this-
letters?
Or just where the swirl
Oh, the
is.
design?
Where the swirl is,
Oh,
the
okay.
swirl is actually a little bit thicker. He hasn't,
Okay.
it's a little bit thicker than that, but it's,
It'll be a taste.
and that would be a gold that looks like, the gold, it's not gonna be a bright, nothing bright. It'd be a deep color, but, and I'm also decided I don't want the telephone number, that people can look it up, so it would just say 1 mile east.
Okay.
Okay.
Put your website.
No, that's good.
Either one's fine, if you like the beige background, that's fine with me. I like the last one too, so.
Okay, you did.
You like the blue one?
I like the beige background.
So you like the beige, nobody likes the black, okay? And
Well, actually-
The beige is better, okay?
Well, actually, I think the
Mhm.
beige is more readable, but from whoever designed the sign, what do they think is more visible, if you will?
Oh, I looked online, I think that this one is more visible, but you can shine a light on it, so I think.
We will shine a light on it. There would be a light.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably the beige would be fine.
The light's a new wrinkle though, isn't it?
Yeah,
What's
that's-
that?
The light, putting it shining, so this would be illuminated all night?
Yeah, that's. That's
No,
everything.
it doesn't have to be illuminated all night.
What would your illumination plans be?
That's
Oh.
a good question.
Well, we were told the time before last that we could put a light on it as long as it's not neon. Is that
That
it
you
wasn't
could put
internal, any kind of internal?
You're allowed, the bylaws allow for an external light to be
External.
Right,
Yeah,
shown.
yeah,
so
that's either the lamppost or another.
Okay.
I mean, it could just come from the
For a
lamp
light
post.
in a residential, for a sign in a residential. Can you check on that?
That's a good question.
We already checked on that. We were told
Well, the other thing is, the light would, I would hope, I'm not sure the rules require this, but I would hope the light would shine down and not up.
Right,
Mhm.
right, because shining down would mean that it would be.
Yeah, so if you have
dimmer.
like a little LED like clipped on top, that's different than,
That's
you know, it's
some
getting
kind of-
into a bigger production. You know, again, this isn't a home-based business, this is advertising a business a mile down the road.
Right.
And so I'm open to this sign, but the light kind
Okay.
of makes it a bigger statement. So if we can put that part off, but I'm ready to, I'm prepared to approve the beige sign, and if
Okay.
we can hold off on the light, or maybe we should consider both of them together.
So what about the lamppost light?
That's fine. That's fine. The problem is, it's a directed light, and, you know, it's gonna be going into your neighbor's windows
Right,
and
right,
stuff like that.
right.
That's the kind of concern we have.
Right, right.
Whereas the lamppost light is just a general
Right,
illumination.
okay, okay. No,
But
I
if-
understand, because my bedroom is in the front, so I'm not gonna want the light
Right.
either.
Right, okay.
So,
But, you know,
And we'd
I
probably turn it off.
don't have any issue if
right, and
if
the
all you're gonna
lamppost
do.
wouldn't stay on late at night
So,
either.
so you turn it off when you turn the lamppost off?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I guess pending a review of light, signs like this and lights, you know, I'd be okay with a downlight. We do have somebody who'd like to speak.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Martha Remington, Chairman of the Old Historical Commission. We discussed this extensively at our meeting last night. And at the risk of bringing Scrooge to the meeting a little earlier for the season, we really don't feel that it's wise for signs for businesses that aren't located where the sign is located to be introduced. I mean, this could possibly mean that 3 out of 4 homes on Main Street might have signs that refer to their favorite things down the street. And no offense to the business, I think it's great if it were located there. But the fact that it's a sign that's sending you, you know, saying, look for this business a mile down the road. And thank you for changing it. I haven't seen it, but I knew you made it more historic. It just didn't make sense to us, but we're only 6 people, so thank you very much.
Do you want to come look at it?
Do you,
Martha, would you like to come look at it?
No, please.
Well, the thing is,
I mean, we just don't want to open up a precedent for
Well,
everybody to have these signs.
No, Martha, well, the thing is, this individual, that's her business.
Right.
So it's not like we're granting, you know, you have a sign for some non-related business that you
Right.
don't own.
Right.
So
I understand that.
I don't believe that we're gonna be overrun with signs, and I think, you know, we do need to do a few things in this town to help promote small business.
True.
We have not necessarily been the most friendly town in terms of trying to get business here, and I think, you know, this is not an illuminated sign, well, not a neon sign, it's not a huge sign. I think it's a tasteful sign, but I think, you know, we do have to bend it a little bit now and then, but I think your fears are unwarranted that we're gonna have a sign in there.
Okay, I mean, that's fair. It's just that, is this going to be now a 2-post or a 1-post sign?
It's just gonna
Oh, it's on the lamp post.
On the
It's on the
lamppost, so beyond
lamppost
the existing lamppost.
with something like
Yeah,
this,
this is nice, but it is going to be square. It's not going to be any
it's,
swirls or things. Okay.
no,
It's
the
it's
sign
the
is-
Holman Inn, you know. Thank you so much.
The swirls are inside. right, well then I'll make the
I
motion.
have the house nicely decorated.
Swallows.
Pumpkins.
So she wanted to put a light on it other than the light post. Some kind of clip-on thing that showed, wouldn't be a problem, is that?
Yeah, I think if you could come back to us with that, so let's get moving on the sign.
I know let's
And
get
if
the
you
sign
can-
up, yeah.
We'll get the sign
And
up, and then
then
we'll take a
you-
picture of the sign, and then, is
And
that
a
what you want us to do with it up, and then come back?
No,
and-
I mean, it's coming back with what your ideas are for the light, like
Okay.
what hours it's gonna be on and what it looks
Mhm.
like.
So we could have it on a timer or something.
Timer or just that you're gonna turn it
Right.
off
Yeah, I mean, there would be no reason to have it, you know,
and what
10,
the
Well,
wattage
yeah,
is,
there's no
that type
real
of
reason to
thing.
have it after business, after.
10 or, yeah.
But So,
Yeah.
so if we can approve the sign tonight and we'll work on the light.
Okay.
that would be good.
Make a motion that we approve the sign for 720 Main Street.
Just amend that it's the
Oh, the beige.
beige sign.
The beige sign.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you
Thank you
for working on this with
Thank
us.
you.
I admire your persistence on this.
Yeah, you've had a great attitude and I appreciate your
I was a little worried about coming tonight.
Working,
For the last time.
Nah.
So I thought-
But we found a reason for you to come back again.
That's right, one more time.
found a
And I do
reason.
love the historic home. I mean, and the shed is
Yeah,
gonna be
doing nice-
fixed.
It looks very good.
I wanna put beautiful plants in the front. It's gonna be more beautiful, so.
Right now we have pumpkins.
Excellent.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you,
nice evening.
everybody.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, have a good night.
So we have an update for the Town Road Strategic Planning Committee. Mark Ayotte,
Hello,
welcome.
gentlemen.
Mark, how are you?
I'm here on behalf of Doug, because he had to travel for work.
Mark, we have
Hey,
Bob
Bob,
Sikansky.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you, Stan, Jonathan, and Don, and thank you for reminding me. So, it's been a busy week. If anyone didn't hear, Wachusett decided to open and blow snow, so I've been busy.
I saw it last week.
Yes,
Yeah.
put it back together. So we're getting there. But anyway, so where are we? We've met a few times. We're meeting almost weekly, gentlemen, because we got the charge, and it was fairly lofty to try to get the numbers that you guys are looking for by January 15th and such. And we knew that, and we're probably thinking that it's probably, we don't know that we will have a large number for you or whatever for design by the 15th is the first thing, because the feeling in the last meeting was that we'll have to go out to possibly look at an RFI from a bunch of design firms. I want to say that Joe Lynch has been great with us in helping guide us in the process of what he thinks is the best way. He's got a lot of good ideas, so that's been very positive. The chief was at our last meeting, so he has a lot of good information about some road, traffic things that are going on, some of the side roads. There's a lot going on to tackle. We're only 5 people. We wish we had some more members. It'd be nice, anyone watching who wants to join, we could use some more members, some more help to get to the, get moving and rolling on it. But we're working on writing up the RFI that would go out to design firms that would then, and an RFI
Request for,
information.
okay.
So it doesn't bind us to anything. It's typical in large projects that you'll release an RFI and ask, the whole corridor would be a large enough project that lots of design firms would want to win the bid. So they'll come in and they will give us ideas on the price, provide us some proposals, give us some ideas on what the fees will be. It's very common in large projects that this is how you do it. I get lots of RFIs that I reply to for technical jobs, big, large technical jobs, and what we think it'll cost. So that when we write an RFP or something, it has some meat to it and it has some good ideas, and it's what things will bear. These come out on combis all the time. They get published on combis, we reply to them, and we go. By replying to them, what's happening is it's kind of like a marketing deal for you as a company. you're kind of going in and you're marketing and you're showing the town early on what you can do and things, so that when you come back and you are in the RFP process, the towns are familiar with all these firms, and it helps out. So, so that's where we think the process is. It's probably a 2-month process for us to get that done. We just started writing the RFI last week. We're starting to get a draft out this week. We're gonna meet again this Monday to start building it. I don't have a date for when we think it'll really be done. But once that happens, it'll take us 1.5 to 2 months to get through that process probably, have everybody in. So I wanted to get your take on that, because I know that you wanted numbers by the 15th, but you can just do math and figure with holidays and things and stuff. And we wanted to get an idea of what your thoughts were on. Also, the Public Ways people were there this week, and we had a good discussion with them on a bunch of different things. We will have some warrant articles that we will be bringing forward for this year, for sure. One of them in particular is going to be the Municipal Modernization Act, which we need to adopt as a community. By adopting that and adopting certain pieces of that, that will help bolster the work we're already doing on the safety zone around the school, and actually push it toward not just being kind of we're building a safety zone, but actually make it a true safety zone and then make it official by the state. So
Joe's already written 2 proposed articles and submitted them to me, so.
yeah, so we're gonna need some help and some things. Is Joe here?
He is.
Oh, he is here. Oh, feel free to come up, Joe, and you can help out. Am I doing okay, Joe?
You're doing fine.
So, so that's kind of where we are. And I wanted to bring it up to you gentlemen on the 15th. And I know you wanted us to get you some money. You wanted us to give you an idea of what the costs were. It's just it's a lot bigger to do than I think that anybody probably would realize. And we want to do it right also. We don't just want to come in and take a dartboard and throw a dartboard and hand you guys a number.
Yeah.
I'd rather hand you something that has some facts to it and some things. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So it was December 15th was the deadline?
No, I think it was in the charge, it was January 15th. You guys were looking for us to be providing some numbers and some things.
So a number for design?
I think for a design firm.
Design engineering, yes.
Yeah, design engineering.
1% design or 5% design, what is it?
Yeah, I'm actually not aware of what, I mean, are you looking at 100% design, 50% design, where actually is that?
We would be going for 100% design because as you would know, you have to design the entire corridor at once, and I think Joe would back me on saying that, right? Yeah, come on. You can't just pick out little pieces at a time. You have to design the corridor, you have to come up with the projects. You can then pick off the projects one at a time as you can eat the elephant, but you have to know what the elephant's gonna look like at the beginning of where you're going to, or else you're going to design one thing on one end of the corridor, and it's not going to work for the other end of the corridor, and you're gonna waste your money. So it's a really bad.
I agree with Mark with that approach. I think that is the best way to go.
And it's not a design per se. What it really is having the design consultant come in with a comprehensive approach of looking at the entire corridor and understanding what the problems are and what various aspects you could use in various elements. So if you think of a corridor master plan to be followed for years, nobody's going to come in and fund a $5 million project right away, but incrementally you might pick away at some of the more affordable ones early on and continue to pursue grants for the bigger ones down the road. So it's really going to take that corridor and look at it along the elements and be able to give us that tool for years to come.
And we could potentially look at a significant chunk and decide that's what we want to put on the tip list and hope that we can get approval for that.
Yeah, and we all should know that the tip list is like a 10, 15-year long process, or who even knows if we even get on, if we get there. So, so it's good to know where we need to go to and what would make the most sense for things, because there's lots of ideas floating around there. But without true facts and data behind it, they're just ideas, and they're not really worth potentially pursuing.
Yeah.
There are some things that have come up that might be good things to try. Like one of the ideas was maybe banning a left-hand turn during commuting hours in the evening at Wattaquatic to stop the log jam right there, push it up a little bit further to Manor Road where there's more room for cars to get around each other, and maybe start getting traffic to flow through the center at rush hour time in the evenings, as opposed to being jammed straight up and can't get around those cars right there at Wattaquatic. We've discussed it with Joe, it's something that could probably be done. And if it doesn't work, it was a sign, and you could roll it back and change it back and then start allowing turns. It's not like it's gonna cost you something.
That's actually a really good point, because after the EDC breakfast that we had in the spring, April I think it was, myself and Barry Lorian met with the CEO of Paragon, because Paragon has been heavily impacted by poor traffic flow in the afternoon commute. It backs up pretty far, people can't get to 495 in a reasonable time, they've lost at least one employee because of it, and Barry indicated at the time, one idea that could well work is to ban left-hand turns on a Wattaquatic, because that apparently is a significant contributor to the bottleneck, even though it's well down here, it does have a ripple effect. And if we were to, from 3 to 6, 3 to 7, whatever 4 to 7, whatever the appropriate time is, he thought that would help traffic flow much better.
Great.
So those are ideas that we have. We'd like to hear from you gentlemen, what you think you'd like from us, and from hearing that, and if we're on the right track, what you'd like us to bring forward for ideas. If we have easy warrant articles that aren't gonna cost a lot and things like that, like this turning lane, it's a sign and such. Do you want to see those coming forward, or do you want us to wait on those, and what are your thoughts there?
I need to understand a little more background here. What drove the January 15th request for numbers?
Well, we're trying to get something for town meeting.
It was more a timing thing for the budget.
Okay, but realistically, you don't think you can reach that?
I think we'd be rushing it, and I think we'd be making a mistake, and we'd be trying to push something ahead too quickly. It's not to say that we won't maybe have some ideas for you.
The warrant closes at the end of March, right?
Yes.
And I think you make a good point, sir. If the warrant could be closed that late, and there's a holding place established that has a general concept of what might be coming forward, it really could give us
Yeah, see, that's unfortunately, if you don't have a sense of it early on, you plunk a warrant article down after everything else has been sort of looked at, it kind of throws all the numbers off. So that's not necessarily the best thing to try.
Yeah, that hurts advisory, it hurts capital planning, it hurts all those guys.
Things like trying to do a no left turn from 4 to 7 or whatever, that's a couple of signs, and that's, so I think, I just assume you invest the time and figure out what the plan is. And, as a fallout of that, if you miss the window for some bigger capital things like the left-hand turn or whatever, or something that might be, smaller that we can phase in, and then, obviously it delays a little bit. But I think a better thought-out plan is probably better than trying to rush something. But that's my opinion.
And that's exactly what the committee wrestled with for the first 3 meetings, and really put the line in the sand and said, we'd rather have a realistic vision, a realistic price, and even miss an entire budget cycle, and come up with the right number.
So for the big things, I think we're saying we'll wait for the complete results. In the meantime, it sounds like the next best time to meet is as soon as you finish your RFI and you're ready to send it out.
Yeah, which is gonna be, we're gonna hopefully start typing through it really quickly. I mean, that's gonna be our whole focus, is mainly going to be that. And we're gonna, because we know we wanna get it out there, we wanna get it out quick, and start moving that ball forward, because from that, there might be a lot of other things that come behind it that we'll still need to work on, and we don't know where that takes us into getting to the next budget cycle.
Well, you might also, once you complete that phase of your project, and I'm asking this as a question,
Okay.
you'll probably also have a better idea of what kinds of things would be appropriate to present at town meeting. And you'll certainly have those recommendations by the middle of January, right? Because from what I'm gathering, you'll get the RFI out before the middle of January.
Oh, yeah, no, we'll have it, we'll have started the process. The way it works is you send out the RFI, you have a meeting, you solicit questions from people, we answer them, and then they...
Where I'm
Yeah.
going with this is I think, from what I'm hearing, and again, I'm asking the question, when you complete the RFI, come back to us and say, here's the RFI, here's what we gathered out of it, and here's some things we recommend putting on the annual town warrant.
Some of the lesser...
The lesser things that might come out of there.
Yes, because by then you will have time to do some sorting and
Yeah.
prioritizing
Yeah.
and in matters of scale.
Yeah, there may be some things there we don't know yet.
Right.
We'll know when they get there. But yeah, absolutely, if there's something that comes up that's easy to do, probably most of the things will be around, my guess, there's a lot of focus, a lot of concern around the school, the high school, and making it safer for the high school kids that are crossing the road, much more than they used to ever before, I think, because I drive it a lot and I come around lunchtime and after school is usually my lunchtime, right when they're getting let out, and they're all crossing to go to Classic Pizza and get something before they go to sports and things like that. So that bodes really well for us, because in Joe's doing his research, finding out that having a commercial zone next to a safety zone and all that, it kind of plays into helping us in that regard with that zone.
So you might have a proposal by January 15th for some type of crossing
No,
in advance?
probably not to
Probably
that
not.
extent. But
Okay.
what we have down there is currently flashing lights going in,
Mhm, yep.
establishing a school zone,
Mhm.
with a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and to enhance the ability to enforce that. There's a tool through the Municipal Modernization Act that Governor Baker put forward in August of 16, passed in 16. There were two provisions of this lengthy Government Streamlining Act. There were two provisions that allow cities and towns to do things unto itself regarding speed control. And one is an overriding 25-mile-an-hour speed limit in certain areas of town that are thickly settled in business districts. Doesn't apply in a big way in this town, but it's a tool that could be used in a very localized area. And the second piece is to adopt a provision of that act, which establishes not school zones, but safety zones. That's also a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's driven in the areas, and they spell it right out, where there are high schools and where there are commercial areas. And so it's a tool that's available that we don't have access to until it's adopted at the town meeting. So those two things we're hoping to bring forward.
Great.
Yeah, those will be warrant articles that we'll be asking to put on.
And to be proactive about that, I'm in the process of trying to schedule a meeting with DOT for Joe and myself, so we can meet with them and say, these are the plans we have going forward, based on the changes in the Muni Reform Act. Do you have any objections? Are you going to be raising any objections? Try to make sure that we've got a clear path and just stay ahead of it.
Yep.
And then the exit from the Florence Sawyer and Emerson, are you looking at any possibilities?
I think that'll all come out of the corridor
Okay.
design work, because that'll come out of the corridor design work for sure. Because that'll have to, all the feeder roads coming in will have to be addressed. That's a feeder road coming in, and ideas around that. There have been ideas to put a new, a new entrance out the back through land that we have. There's been ideas for lights there. There's so many different things floating around. We don't know what the right one is. I mean, until we design it.
In a parallel sense, the Public Way Safety Committee is actually looking at the existing crosswalks that are there, separate of traffic control so much as pedestrian safety. And where there are crosswalks, they're looking at the viability of putting a pedestrian called a pedestrian
Mhm.
signal in that area, which would only be used during school hours, or not even that, and when people want to come to this meeting at night and
Yeah.
want to come down the sidewalk.
Want to cross
They
here.
can call it. So they're looking at that and looking at developing costs, and they may bring something forward unto themselves on that.
I've noticed in other towns, they're spraying those walkways green, and they're
They are.
related to schools, and, has a strong visual impact. One other thing, you're considering the whole corridor. I just want to make sure, like, the intersection to 85 Hudson Road is also.
Yeah, we're going all the way down because, we have our industrial area, which is our business zone, which is very important to this process also. Talking to Mike Prefontaine, the CEO, for a long time, him not being able to get employees jeopardizes his business there, which Stan just brought up something about business and trying to encourage business. That's discouraging business. If we can't get these employees to be able to get their kids from daycare and they have to quit a job, it's a problem. So we need to, that's why we initially thought, hey, if we can use the left-hand turn ban thing to get traffic pushing out and help some of that alleviation at the end of the day and get things moving quicker, then we shouldn't wait for something like that if it works. And we should start doing some small things if we can initially, while we're still trying to get to the big things. I mean, I'm not trying to stop progress, but I'm also trying to, we're trying to do it the right way also in the end, and trying to do it, from, logically. So,
We have a question from the Bolton Independent.
Dan Schnitzler, Bolton
Yeah.
Independent. Can the town unilaterally block a left turn onto 1 Quad at certain hours?
yes. Yep.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
Cool.
We
Okay,
can-
good.
Well, the town wouldn't do it unilaterally and
Yeah.
recklessly, we'd
Yeah.
do it based on good principle.
Yes.
No, but you don't need like the Municipal Modernization Act to do that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
That's.
And it just takes a vote of the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
not town meeting, to do that.
Yeah, you gentlemen could do that, by the way. It's up to you, to be able to do that. So we're gonna start bringing those things forward. and stuff.
Super.
Great.
So,
Sounds good.
so we are
Thank
moving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing
You've met the gentleman, but good to see you again. I'll be here in
Nice to meet you.
Okay,
Mom.
Good to see you, Joe.
Nice to meet you. Meet you, Joe. See you soon. See you in a few minutes.
Okay.
So we have we're going to discuss options for a wall at 225 Main Street on the town easement. Hello. Hi.
Sorry.
How are you?
Hi,
I'm Sue.
Jonathan, Sue. Nice
Hi.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So, I think,
Yes, they have that in their calendar.
Pull those up.
so as the last time you proposed on Rockwell, but rejected. So I propose in, we're gonna use the brick column as we and instead of the block, we're gonna use the wood. I use the, so the fan will be 6 feet high. Okay, and between on each column will be 8 feet.
Okay.
As along here, this is existing fence that they already
The horse
built.
fence?
Yes.
Mhm.
So we just want to continue until the front of the house.
Mhm.
So to block the noise and
Mhm.
for safety of my son.
Yeah.
Everything.
So, since our last visit, was the DPW director able to go out and?
He did, he went out and did an
Flag the line?
inspection. He did, he reviewed the files, and went down to the location, and actually in your packet, you have a very detailed report from him on his findings and his recommendations. Should be right after the library, so.
unless I pulled it off.
Yeah, your two sides, yeah.
Do you have your
Is that in?
Yeah,
John?
yeah.
Thank you. I'm just saying. So the existing paddock and fencing already encroaches 5 feet into the right-of-way.
That would be an example that we
Yeah,
plan
yeah,
to do,
so-
yeah.
So that's an improvement over the cinder block wall.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of
Over the
different
last
because I know
one.
it's blocking the noise, that's why we want to
Yeah.
do it.
Mhm.
And then if the town want to keep the look as the same as everybody. I know it's kind of different than everybody else,
Yeah.
nobody build that, yeah.
Mhm.
So except in Florida, they build that in Florida.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so anyway, so we adjusted to wood fan with the brick columns.
Mhm.
So I talked with Mike, the building
Savageau, the
inspector.
building
Yeah.
inspector,
And he said he fine with that, so
fine with.
with the brick, with the wood fan, I think it will be easier and,
So when Mike's saying it's fine, what is he referring to?
He's saying it's acceptable within the bylaws.
yeah.
I mean, he's not commenting on the aesthetics or anything like that. He said it comports with the bylaws.
Okay. So do we have any more comments from the board? Sorry.
I think Mr. Lynch brought up some very good points about the liabilities and a hold harmless agreement.
Mhm.
So contingent upon Mr. Lynch's recommendations, which are documents, not really anything structural about the wall, I'm comfortable with going ahead with this.
So am I. I think this design is certainly a nice improvement. I think it looks fine.
Yeah.
You know, as the DPW director indicates, there are several fences and walls within the right-of-way in the vicinity there. I really don't think that this is going to be a problem. We're talking about 12 feet off of the edge of pavement, right?
Yes, correct, sir.
Yeah, I guess I disagree. This is on a curve. If you're driving west, this is on a curve, so this wall will influence the sight lines. Also, I'd say there are fences in the neighborhood, including yours, that are wood, and if they needed to be, could be lifted up and moved very quickly. You're proposing to build a permanent structure, so these are brick pillars, and they're probably going to be on concrete footings down to the frost line. So that is a permanent structure. So I don't think we should be approving permanent structures on the right-of-way. If you were proposing a wood fence that could be lifted in a matter of hours, you know, for an emergency or something like that, I might reconsider. But again, we do have the curve in the road, so I think there are some safety considerations here.
I actually disagree. I mean, this fence is not going to intrude on anybody's sight line. It being 12 feet back from the road, and the curve, if anything, is gentle, so it's not going to obstruct any view from any motorist in either direction on 117, nor will it obstruct any view of anyone entering or exiting the property.
Yeah. Because the curb usually is on the horse fence. This is the fence that we're gonna build is only in front of my house. So it goes straight like it after the curb. The curb is far away from my property, you know, the one that they use the horse fence already. That wood, everybody can see it through it, what they're doing. But this is just only in front of my house, that's it. As the picture show you here. So it's not gonna block any side or
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, I think on your own property, you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want, but I think.
And then the speed up like 55 an hour. So I'm kind of like, you know, it's not safe, and then there's too much noise going on.
So we have a gentleman in the audience.
So what is proposed and what's different from the last time? Is it a wall still?
Can you identify yourself?
I'm sorry, Ken Trooper Meadow Road.
If you'd like to come up and look.
Briefly, it's brick columns,
6-foot brick columns.
6-foot brick columns with,
Yeah.
it looks like 2-foot brick walls connecting them. And between the top of the low brick wall is wood.
So to build a 6-foot column, you have to put a footing down to the frost light. So it is building a permanent structure.
I guess the only other comment I have is that we go by there almost every day, walk by quite frequently, and it would seem to me that the best approach from a monetary point of view as well as a visual point of view is to put vertical boards on the back of the fence that's there. They can be as high as they would want to have, probably 6, 7, whatever, similar to the other fences that are right in that very same neighborhood, and that would accomplish what needed to be accomplished and not be the problem that you're describing about the permanency of the wall. That's the way that I would definitely go if it were my fence.
Mr. Chairman, Martha Remington, 447 Main Street. Is this new proposal going to be over at the paddock 3-rail fence or in front of the house?
Just the front of the
It
house.
starts at
Just
the paddock.
front, so
Yeah.
All right, okay,
This
I'm
is
sorry.
a different
That's what I didn't
location.
Yeah,
understand.
just
Okay.
the front of the
All right,
house,
that's what I
along the side of the existing
Okay.
fence.
Thank you.
That's what I didn't understand either. So is there something proposed where the fence is?
The paddock fence, there's nothing proposed
Oh, all
there.
right, so this is simply in front of the house?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'll retract my comment.
Chief Nelson, have you driven by this area?
I've driven by many times. As you mentioned, the visibility on Main Street, I might worry about the other driveways of the house on either side, whether that's going to block their exiting out of their driveways. Because now they're going to be behind the fence, and they're going to have to see around that fence any of the oncoming cars in either direction. So that, does bring up a visibility point. And to Ken's point of possibly testing something to make sure everybody's happy, especially if the town's involved before deciding.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to have it staked, have the right-of-way staked clearly. I haven't seen the markings and the location and the height of the fence, and
Okay.
do a site visit before.
Chief, if this fence is 12 feet back from the pavement, isn't that a full car length?
So at least, yeah, that's about a lane.
Okay.
A little over a lane.
So how would how would this block the view of someone emerging from a nearby driveway?
Yeah, either driveway on either side. So as they come out, it may block the visibility down the road, 100, 200, 300 feet, that it might block their vision. They may not see a car. That's what I would be afraid of, more than the cars on Main Street traffic.
Right, but as I understand it, this is going to be, the driveways on either side should have a full car length of clear visibility of the road.
But at some point, though, that fence is going to be in the way. A
Right.
great point is at the end of Burnham Road, where we have our little skids for a fence.
Right.
People have complained that they can't see around that fence far enough down the road, so they've got to creep way out into the road to see far enough around the corner.
Okay.
So that would be my point there.
Right, but those are much closer to the road than 12 feet, aren't
And
they?
they're also half the height.
Yeah.
So,
But
can only speculate.
I think you need to see it. It needs to be staked out. We need to see what the effect is. There is a curve there. There is also a high speed limit in that neighborhood. What is it, 45?
Yes,
50?
my house,
It's
after my house
45
changed
now.
to 50.
Of that.
I feel like we're constantly moving the goalposts.
Yeah, because the house is almost 2 acres. So behind my house is conservation land. My neighbor is like an acre away.
Yeah,
It's
and
only
the-
one neighbor I
Well,
have, yeah.
the houses on either side, the driveways are substantially far away. It's much different than Burnham, where there's Burnham and then there's the pallet fence. They're much farther away, and I think there's woods there between the two, so you've got the woods, so now this fence is gonna be behind the woods, and then the house that's beyond, you know, they have bushes and everything, and plus, it's gonna be sufficiently far away from the pad, because actually, according to this, that fence is not gonna go, and this structure's not gonna go any further forward than that, where that paddock fence is, and that paddock fence stretches 50, 60 feet going in the easterly direction.
But that's like a 4-foot fence, and it's.
But it's no, but it's
We can do
no,
it-
but it's no
shorter if you
farther
like to.
ahead than the others. And I think to mimic your point, Bob, I think we're continuing to move the goalpost here.
I don't think so. This is our second, I think this is our second meeting about this.
With a whole new set of questions. The issue before the board is will the board allow these people to put up a fence within the right-of-way? And now we're off in design discussions where we have no authority.
No, it's not a design, it's safety, it's height. It's related to the curve of the road, the height of the fence, the solidity of the fence. There are real safety concerns. Our DPW director said allowing private property on public ways should only be considered under very rare circumstances. They can build whatever they want on their land, including, you know, they could put a wooden fence on their land with the septic system in the location they have. They just have a desire to build, you know, a very big fence on town property.
I don't
So-
understand how you can stake a wooden fence on a septic system.
You can.
But-
I mean, no, we have no documentation from the homeowners saying that the fence cannot be installed, a wooden fence can't be installed at the edge of the septic system. We're just taking that as, you know, as information that's factual. We don't know that. I think there's, you know, this desire to build this fence, but, you know, you can do what you want on your land, but you're asking to do it on town land.
But you didn't ask for documentation after their first meeting last week. That's why I feel you're constantly moving the goalposts.
Yeah, last time you said, could you propose us with some new material? That's what you say.
Yes.
No, last time we asked the DPW director to go out, and he did, and he came up with some recommendations, and so we're following up on those. You might want to read them.
I think we actually can solve this problem here, because I think of some of the recommendations. One of them is an exact location and design for the wall ought to be submitted to the DPW for review and approval. And I would even go a little bit further, you know, to ask the homeowner to stake the ground. But I think, you know, if we follow that, if the DPW doesn't approve what's out there, and I think, you know, staking it would go, it's a little bit extra that we haven't asked you to do before. But I think, you know, as long as everyone was happy with that, I think we could, you know, make this approval condition upon, you know, the DPW finally seeing exactly where this is gonna go, and we could take a look at it.
And, yeah, in addition, I'd just like a letter, you know, from an engineer saying you can't put a wooden fence on your land. You know, you have, I think you have to,
Yeah, it's
you
on
have
my
to
land. I think
prove
you
hardship.
can approve it. On my own land.
Yeah.
Do your things.
Yeah.
What's, no, yeah, I'd just like to know, you know, your husband came in and said, we can't put a wall on our land. And I don't know if that's true. So it'd be.
As our lawyer say, in the law of Massachusetts, it's on your own land, you can use any material. But
Right,
in
right.
each town, you have to talk with your guy first, get approved or not. But unfortunately, that the land that is 12 feet is along with the fence that's been approved and built before. So that's our own land. So I don't know why we can't.
Yeah, I just,
approve it.
do you have a septic plan?
The septic plan is in front of the site.
I know, but do you have a plan that shows where it is?
I didn't bring the Title V with me, so as you see, this is the septic. This is the way.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the diagram from the
Yeah.
Title V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, can you build a wall
close to
closer
the
on your
septic.
property, closer to your septic system?
You want us to move closer to the house, you mean?
Well, you can build anything you want on your
Yeah.
property, so
Right.
I'd just like to know why you're not proposing to build something on your property.
But it's 12 feet from the easement, it's not enough. That's our own land already. It's 12 feet.
No, you're asking to build a wall on the town's land.
Oh, it's my land, it's on the, oh, wait a minute. I think this is my land because it's along with the fence that's already existing. That's our land. It's continue straight line from the fence that's already existing. That's my land.
So, Joe, did you stake it out?
I didn't stake it out, but I did look at the official layout, just for the microphones. I'm not sure if they can hear me. I did not stake it out. I reviewed the Mass DOT plans, the old Mass Highway plans from back in the day, from 1998, when they did a land taking and laid it out. In this particular area, if you're standing at the property looking at their home, to the left, there's a stone wall, an ancient stone wall with a corner in it. That corner is in fact the boundary, and the other wall that's on the neighboring property to the east, I think it's 215, that's also on the right of way. When you connect the dots through, it's curved in that area. When you connect the dots, that's how I derived that the paddock is in fact on public land. So there may be some confusion with the homeowner that they think they may own up to the edge of the pavement, therefore it's their land, when it's not. The ownership is well into the front yard, what looks like their front yard area.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. As I know, the last owner, I'm a new owner, so the last owner do a reservation for the land. So she told me that the land is until the pad, the fence is already existing. So along of the existing fence, that's our land. That's all we know is land. I already know it's not the land until pavement. I already know that. So I know my land until the fence that already is existing. That's why we want to build a fence along that, the
So I
straight
did not
line.
survey it. I did reconnaissance. I had official layout plans of where the ownership is. And on either side of this particular lot, the right-of-way boundary is clearly established. And when you connect the dots between the two,
So you'd say the existing paddock fence?
The existing paddock
Is
is on the right-of-way.
on the right of way.
On the right-of-way.
So the last owner is wrong.
Don't know what the last one is. I don't know what you're referring to.
So she just bought the house, so she told me that because I asked the question where's the land end, so she said the land's end until the paddocks, so that's why I say that, yeah.
Joe, you in one of your bullet points, it said the wall in this location is mostly along the right-of-way boundary. However, the wall does transition into the right-of-way the more easterly it extends.
Sure, so just to reconnoiter yourself, if you're standing in front of the applicant's property to the east.
Looking at.
Looking at it, to your right, which is to the east, there is a formal wall that's established along that frontage. It's the neighboring property, it's established there, but it curves in and adjoins, and you can see there's a clear line between what's relatively new and what's very old. That was part of that Mass Highway project in the mid-90s, late 90s, and that they transitioned that up to where the existing wall was prior to a land taking. So that wall in the closest vicinity to the applicant's property line is at the right-of-way. Mass DOT
The old wall, right, from the 16th century, that wall. That one along on my side of my house.
So,
Is that,
the one to the left of your house,
yeah,
where the wall turns at
Yes,
a jog,
yeah.
right where it turns at a corner, that corner is in fact the property line of where the road is.
okay,
Road ownership.
okay,
To your right, your other neighbor,
yes.
there's a wall on that side as well, the other side of the horse paddock, or the animal paddock. The face of that wall on that side of your property is also the street right-of-way. You connect the dots between the two, everything on the street side of that straight line is the right-of-way that the selectmen are talking about.
Part of the question that's coming up here is how far is it between the right-of-way and the septic?
That I have no idea of.
Okay.
They submitted a Title V inspection, but there's insufficient information to even draw a conclusion on it.
How far into the right of way does the wall go?
The proposed wall or?
Yeah, the proposed wall. It's the worst case. As you say, it says it's mostly along the boundary, so obviously it's right up to the boundary in certain part, and you say it does transition into the right of way the more easterly it extends.
So it's probably 300 feet, 2 to 300 feet beyond this applicant's property line as a transition back to the original. And that was part of a...
No, that's not the question I'm asking. Where the wall is being constructed on this individual's property, you said in one of your bullet points, it says the wall in this location is mostly along the right-of-way boundary. So it's touching it. It's on the boundary.
That's referring to the abutting property. That's not referring to this location. That's 215.
All right, so then how far into the right-of-way is this wall?
I've never had that information until just recently I got the sketch. And they're saying it's 12 feet from the edge of pavement. And if it's 12 feet from the edge of pavement and the right-of-way in that area is approximately 20 feet, it's 8 feet into the town right-of-way. Approximately, simple math, no survey involved here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it would be good if Joe could flag it, and if the homeowners could put up 6-foot stakes where you want to put the fence.
Or we can move a little bit closer to our house. That's what you say.
Well, if you can get this wall on your property inside Joe's line, then you don't need you don't need our permission.
If you can put this wall where it doesn't touch the town stuff,
okay,
you don't have to come here.
That would be the end of it. It's strictly the building department.
That would be great.
So how do we know which town go to?
So Joe's going to mark the line.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to volunteer you, Joe. Would you do that, sir?
Will you please?
I can show
We've been in it for 2 months, so.
But where the layout is a curvilinear layout, it's
Yeah.
curvature, it's not as easy as a straight line, so that's a complicated survey.
So
But I can certainly give them guidance.
He's going to show where the town land is.
Okay.
You got to figure out the space between town land and the septic.
Okay.
If you can put your wall between town land and septic, you don't need to come here.
As long as it's not on a town line.
As long as it's not on town line, and he will tell you where the town land is.
Okay.
This is how you reach it.
Thank you. So one more question, sir. Because the last owner said they do some land reservation, and as she's told me, and he said it's not matching.
Right.
So what should I do now?
Can you get a copy of that survey?
Okay.
Ask the old owner for a copy of the survey. That's your money. That's what you really need.
Okay. So and then I come here and.
Bring it to him.
Okay.
You just purchased the house?
Yes.
Chances are when you purchase the house, in your closing documents, you will probably have what's called a certified plot plan. It's probably in your files, you don't realize it. So you can ask the former owner, or you might
Former
check
owner
your
used to hiring the guy, the engineering, to do the survey of the land because they have 2 lots. So she do survey of the lot of the house. She told me she already did it. She paid the guy to do it.
And they subdivided.
Who helped you buy?
It's on record.
I don't get into that detail.
You can get that.
So I'll get that copy and give it to you. So let's see.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I have to put you through this.
I know, it's an
I
experience.
think this is fine the way it is, but
I
we'll go
know.
through this.
It's fine with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Police Chief Nelson here to discuss full-time officer proposal.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Chief, how are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for seeing me tonight and putting me on the agenda.
For the discussion tonight, I'd like to propose an alternative method of bringing on a full-time employee by going to our pool of reserve officers to see if there's any candidates in those, in that group, to see if anybody would want to come on board full-time. And that would mean we would hire them, get a waiver to have them work through the MPTC Council, and for 270 days, I can use them until they can get into an academy, and then they go to a full-time academy. We send them, we pay them, and we've got a full-time employee right after that. The last time we did that was with Lieutenant Hamburger and Detective Puri. So we're talking almost 10 years ago, 7 to 10 between both of them. So looking at it, it's a great investment because I got 2 employees that are gonna hopefully stay with me for their whole career and continue on. On both of them, they had a contract. So on theirs, it was a 3-year contract, $3,000. That would pay back the $1,800 academy and any incidentals to get them there. Now it's $3,000 to put somebody into the academy, that's their tuition. A couple $1,000 for equipment, cruiser for a week, ammunition. I look at it, it's about a $10,000 investment to put them there, plus their pay for, we'll say, 5 to 6 months of about $20,000, roughly. I figured half at the step 1 patrolman's rate. So my budget is doing well, so I can sustain any type of operation like that to put somebody through the academy because that position is still open and those wages are already in the budget. So that's my current plan because over the past year, I've lost 2 people. One was 10 months, I think he was, and the other was a year. So I'm not retaining people to stay and work longer than a year. Another one from Clinton, Brian O'Malley, he stayed a year and got a civil service job in Clinton. So that's why I was throwing around a contract for 5 years. You gotta stay for 5, or you're gonna owe me $10,000. And then it would go down in increments, 4 years, it'd be 8,000, and down the line, down to the end. So at least I can say I'm gonna keep somebody here for a few years and hopefully longer. And also, the quality of applicants that have been coming in have been less than average, if you want to call it that. I've turned down, probably the first time I can remember it in all these years, I've turned down more people than we've accepted. And that's because their backgrounds are failing. Sometimes they take different jobs before we can get them, and some, the pay's a little low, so they kind of steer away to a different department. But I want to possibly start to build the reserves, get them in, get them working, get a good look at them, and then decide if that's a qualified candidate that we'll put our name on to sponsor at the academy.
Chief Nelson and I have had several meetings on this, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's very creative on his part to come forward with it. You know, it's an investment, but, you know, I sit through all the interviews, and the number of strong applicants that we get are very much lower than it used. The number of applicants we get, period. You go back 3 years, we might get 70, 80 applicants for a full-time patrolman's position. Now we're getting maybe 10.
6 on the last application.
6 on the last one. It's decreasing. As the chief said, you know, some that look to be okay, you know, once we get into the background check, they're not so great anymore. Or, you know, because officers are in demand, you know, they get taken by another department before we can get to them. So this allows us to hire somebody whom we know is a quality officer. We invest in them, they're investing in us. We have hopefully a long-term commitment. So I actually don't see any downside to this, and I highly recommend that the board accept the chief's proposal.
So how long is the academy?
5 months.
5 months.
Yep.
And so you were saying they get a car?
Yeah, there's EVOC, so they have to do driving.
Okay.
So they'll take a car for a week, and then they just do all their EVOC.
Okay.
So they'll be on their own, they'll take their own car. We might have to pay a mileage, but I don't give them a cruiser to go to class every day. It's just when they're learning how to drive.
Okay.
Would you be sending 2 candidates at the same time, or would it be sequential?
If I had 2 openings, I would maybe request 2, but I only have 1 opening right now.
Okay.
So it would only be 1 person.
Sounds good. Could just try it.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. Make a motion that we approve the full-time officer proposal as proposed by Police Chief Nelson.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll stick around for the next topic.
So we have the DPW Director, Joe Lynch, here with a request to transfer surplus fire tanker and dispose of surplus equipment.
Evening, how you doing?
Good.
Long time no see.
So just up the easy one, the disposal of surplus equipment. These are, the memo speaks for itself, I think it's probably in your packet. These are 2 relatively old pieces of equipment. One is a 2003 retired police cruiser that the town has taken into the public works realm, and it was involved in a front-end accident many years ago, and it's going to be disposed of through auction, but likely to be bought for scrap. There's really no value whatsoever to that one. Yeah, the light-duty pickup truck, light-duty F-350 truck is a 2005. It has a bad transmission, but the frame's in pretty darn good shape. The dump body's in good shape. Somebody might use it as a project car or a farm vehicle. We believe there's some value there. I have talked to a municipal surplus equipment auctioneer, and there is some interest in putting them both on their site. It's a publicly procured, dispose of site, and it's a nationwide exposure. And I've used them before in other towns, and other towns have used them with great success. So I believe we'll be able to return some money for some derelict vehicles back to the town.
So these are, the dump truck has just been sitting there in the back lot.
Yes, that's the case. It's an old turbo diesel. It's the smaller version turbo diesel, which is a very unreliable engine, and the transmission is short on it. Like I said, for someone who might want to use it on a farm, not take it anywhere with a precarious operation, there's some value to somebody.
Great.
Sounds good to me.
Anything else?
So that's on the disposal of the equipment. Now, the surplus equipment is, my folks, when I first came aboard, brought to my attention, my employees brought to my attention that there was a piece of fire apparatus down at the public safety building's yard, and that it was likely to be surplus. They had gotten a new fire tanker truck. One of the operations that I pride myself with is snow operations, and some of the tools that you would use and that I have used with regards to pre-treatment and chemical control to minimize the use of salt and to minimize the use of sand and all the pollution that goes along with both of those, is to get up there early. What we don't have is an apparatus or a way to move water from our facility or a cistern down to our salt barn, which is down at the transfer station. There's no water at the transfer station. So this vehicle will be able to be put to use immediately this winter. Well, hopefully not at all this winter, but that's not realistic. But we'd be able to put to use immediately this winter, just as a way to pre-wet and to get us salt jump started before we actually use it.
Yes.
And I've conferred with the fire chief and his deputy, and we've talked about it, and it's a good mechanical working order, and my guys are pretty mechanically ingenious, and it's something we can put together pretty quickly and be able to use.
Great.
And my understanding, I'm not sure if someone from the fire department's here this evening, but I did confer with them and got the word that they no longer need it themselves.
Chief Metzner is here.
Hey, Chief. So I think it's a great idea if the old apparatus is of value to DPW, that'd be a great way to use it.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay. Sounds good. Need a motion?
Please.
All right, make a motion, we'll do it separately, to approve the request to dispose of surplus equipment.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. And then the next is approve the request to transfer a surplus fire tanker truck from the fire department to the DPW.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This is Joe's first real meeting with the Board of Selectmen since he's been hired. I would just like to say publicly that he's off to a great start. He's really jumped in with both feet, and I think Joe's proving to be an excellent hire.
Excellent.
And you guys, this town and the people in this town and the employees make me look good, because it's such a great place. I'm having a lot of fun. Honestly, I'm enjoying what I do.
Good.
And I guess that maybe makes my eyes brighter when I meet with people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you, Joe. So we have the town administrator report.
Thank you. It's back to tradition and a brief one tonight on Minuteman, but I promise a more robust town administrator report in December. Just wanted to make just a couple of points for the Minuteman construction project. And we have another meeting on Monday, so there'll be more up-to-date information. But I just wanted to point out one major thing. The excavation and blasting are complete for the project. And the work is underway to create the footings for the foundation and lay concrete. And now we're actually driving piles and preparing for leader beams. Also, the 90% construction documents have now been submitted to the MSBA. So the project is really moving along. So, you know, I haven't had a lot new to talk about. It's very boring getting the project started. It's more administration than anything, but we're really getting into the ground now, and having worked on building projects before, once you get rolling, you can see pretty quickly the progress, and it's pretty exciting to see where we are, and we've not seen any reason yet to think that we can't have it occupied in September of 2019. The original plan was 2020, and so far, it looks like we're going to be able to do 2019.
That's great.
Great.
So that was my concise town administrator's report for this evening.
And then we have Board of Selectmen business. We have a request to appoint David Calcagni to the Conservation Commission. You want to come on up, sir?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Doctor. How are you?
Hi, David. Nice to see you.
Hi, David.
Jonathan.
Hi, David.
Oh, nice to see you.
So we're finally snagging you.
Yeah.
So you were part of the group that was fighting the gas lines, weren't you?
It was going right through our backyard.
Yeah.
Right through our backyard.
And
My wife was very, very involved.
Well, that was great work fighting that.
It
So
was a team effort. It really was a David versus Goliath, and David won. I was shocked. I think a lot of people were. The good guys actually do win sometimes.
And so that led to your interest on the Conservation Commission?
Well, you know, I retired after 39 years of medical practice last December. And
Congratulations.
Yes, thanks. We have a farm. We have a couple horses, and we breed pointer, English pointers. We have like a dozen dogs. 14 acres, all fenced in. We train dogs. We do a lot. I do a lot of stuff. I grew up in northern Vermont. We have a home up in northern Vermont, out in the middle of nowhere. I like that kind of stuff. When I moved here, I moved to Bolton. I worked in Boston, but I moved to Bolton because it reminded me of Vermont. I like the countryside, I like the pastoral setting, and after a long conversation with Don about where I could fit somewhere, I have some time now. We both agreed this would be a good fit.
Great.
I really would like to see Bolton stay the way it is. You know, there's tremendous pressure for development, you know, and we're not going to stop that, but we need to basically preserve the character of the town.
Yep. Great. Sounds good. Sounds like you've made a great addition. Any other questions?
I've known the doctor some time now, so I think he'd be an excellent fit.
I applaud and thank you for stepping up and helping the town.
I'm glad, I have the time, and I really feel that I really would like to do something. So,
Well, you have a beautiful farm, and
thank you.
I love Old Bay Road. If we can keep it the way it is, I would be so happy.
Wouldn't that be great?
It's one of my favorite roads in Bolton.
Well, the thing is, without taking your time with the town and Rob Pelletier did on Wanacodic, when they were going to put 20, they had that place perked for 20 houses in there. And you look at that property and what that's like one of the gems of Bolton
Yeah.
now. And that could have been 20 McMansions in there. So the people can get things done when we get together. Same with the pipeline.
Anything, Bob?
No, I first met the doctor about 2 minutes ago, and I'm very favorably impressed, and I'm looking forward to his being on the commission.
All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of David Calcani to the Conservation Commission.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
for
much.
volunteering.
Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
I get to collect the bounty on you now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you, Bob.
We have a discussion and possible vote of closing on the town common property.
So I have provided the board with the title report for the property, as well as the report from the LSP on the summary letter on any issues with the property. And to summarize the letter, it's been, he confirms that the land that the town is going to purchase is clean for the use. It does not require any ongoing monitoring. Any ongoing monitoring that is required is the responsibility of the trust, but that's a separate parcel that's not related to this. So I believe that, there were some points raised by our attorney, and I think these two documents address the points raised by the attorney. As far as the title report goes, there were 10 encumbrances found. 9, the attorney, town council, explained in an email that they were, I guess, to use a non-legal term, benign. There was one that needed a little bit more attention, and an email that I got late this afternoon that you may or may not have seen, I did forward it. So as an update, the title company has agreed to remove item 3 as the issue has been resolved. So that particular encumbrance has been removed, and we have an explanation for the other 9. So I'm not aware of any impediments that would prevent the board from agreeing to close on the property.
Okay.
And as if you do vote to go forward with the closing, I have 2 suggestions. One would be that we try to target a closing date of December 1st, which would meet the obligations that I've had to follow as far as procurement laws go, and it would be a date that would work for the trust. Also, that you authorize our town council as our agent to sign off on the closing for us, so no one has to be, none of you or I have to be present for the closing, and he could sign as our agent.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
All right, then I'll make a motion that we approve and move forward with the closing on the property known as the Town Common, date of December 1st. Target date December 1st, 2017, and that the Board of Selectmen authorize Town Council to act as our agent.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then we have, next we have a review and execution of the Memorandum of Understanding for the School Resource Officer. Chief Nelson, you're back.
Yes. And just as a historical review, perhaps for Bob's edification, back in June there was a discussion the first discussion relative to the proposed memorandum of understanding between the school district and the town relative to the SRO, which was vetted by both town council and school district's council. There were suggestions made at the time relative to potential edits to that document, and Chief Nelson was asked to go off, and we had our town council present that night. As a result, Chief Nelson was asked to go off and put together what I guess would be considered a roles and responsibilities document that could address many of those concerns. He came back with that, I believe, in September, and it addressed most of the concerns. There was still a couple of points raised by Selectmen Keep, and Chief Nelson was asked to go back and meet with Superintendent Clenchey to see if if the district was open to including those edits. I attended. It was last week, I believe it was. I attended last week's school committee meeting where this was on the agenda, and the school committee felt that the original document back in June was sufficient, that the other points were dealt with in current school procedure. So they, not everyone on the school committee spoke, but those on the school committee who did speak felt that the original document was sufficient, so the school committee declined to add any of the proposed edits. So we're where we were in June with the proposed memorandum of understanding, which I believe, I'm positive the school committee has already voted to approve and authorize the superintendent to sign. So what's left is for the board to decide if that memorandum of agreement is acceptable to you and authorize Chief Nelson to sign, or if you have any other issues.
So the piece that, what's the piece that they rejected? It was the reporting piece?
It was largely the reporting piece, yes. There were,
is that in here?
It is both versions of the
We have it right
document
now,
here.
Jonathan, see where there's highlight, we'll go to the next page.
Okay.
And then see where, right there, see where there's things highlighted.
It was, I think beginning in D under section 5, I believe it is.
So the underlined sections?
Yes.
Highlighting
On the highlighted section. the highlighted-
Highlighted and underlined.
Yes.
I think town council had threw in a
That's the
few different words here or there between the
This
parties.
is the one that's already signed.
And clarified Nishover
Oh,
or
it's
Bolton.
underlined, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's not.
It's underlined, sorry.
Right.
And then that one section.
Primarily it was the bottom of page 5 carrying over.
So the part, the school, so the school committee didn't pick this up to take this up for a vote.
The school committee discussed it and declined to vote on it and said that they wanted to stick with the original document.
So I just want to make a notation. The request for the memorandum of understanding came from the Board of Selectmen, and the school committee jumped and voted on it before we even reviewed it. So I just want, it's really important how, these documents, who they go to first. So they kind of jumped the gun, and, I'm not happy with that. They should have waited for us to review it. This piece that they're rejecting is very important. This is under section 5. It's called necessary follow-up. So a teacher or other school employee with knowledge of facts pertinent to the reportable act shall, so this would be a use of force act, shall prepare and submit a report on the incident to the appropriate designated school liaison. Number 2, notify the designated school liaison of the existence of any physical evidence. And 3, take reasonable steps to maintain any pertinent physical evidence in a secure place. So at the high school, we did have a use of force incident. There were no reports made by the administrators involved that when the incident was, how it was instigated. So all of that responsibility fell on the school resource officer, who was called in kind of at the midpoint in this incident. And so what I wanted this included because it's important that school administrators that start with a student and maybe, have this interaction, they need to document what they've done so that the group that works on this, that's our police department and the school administration can process what happened when there's a use of force and what they can do so that it doesn't happen again. So I'm pretty disappointed that they haven't, taken that seriously and, at least considered it for a vote.
So a couple of points that I should make in all fairness to the school committee and the school district. When I discussed this with Superintendent Clenchey, she made it clear to me that that is their standard operating procedure, so they did do reporting on that incident. I had probably multiple conversations with her about that, so it was her feeling that the procedure already exists, and that I believe the school committee's feeling was that since the procedure already exists, it wasn't particularly necessary to add it to the MOU. And as far as the school committee voting on this first, I guess I would need to take responsibility for that, because when it's always been my practice ever since I got here that any document to be reviewed by the selectmen be signed off by the other party first, so the selectmen know what they're dealing with. So it intentionally went to the school committee first for consideration. I actually directed Chief Nelson to forward it on to Superintendent Clenchey. So if that's a policy that the board would like to change, I obviously will do whatever the board likes. But anything that the board reviews and signs, it's always been my practice that you know what you're dealing with as far as what the other party will agree to, and then you can edit it as you see fit. My approach was somebody needs to review it first, somebody needs to sign off on it first, so you know the parameters under which you're working. And if something comes to you that's unacceptable, then you would make edits, and then it's an iterative process. We do that with labor contracts, we do that with pretty much anything that I can think of. So, I would take responsibility for that. But again, just reporting back what the superintendent has said, she has indicated that that is their standard procedure. So certainly they feel that, and I have no firsthand information just in speaking with Superintendent Clenchey, but that the school district does follow that practice.
So that's in writing, or that's?
I believe it's in their procedures. I've not seen their procedures, but she has told me that it is in their standard procedures.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd just say that, there was no memorandum of understanding. It should have been done. There was no document. We asked, that one be created. So, I think it would have been good to review that document as a draft before they voted on it.
I'm fine with the document as is, and the version of the document that Superintendent Clenchey signed last year, actually this year, and I was fine with it at the beginning. They reviewed it, they accepted it. You wanted something else added, they didn't agree with it, so we are where we are. I have no further questions or comments.
My review of the document is that this far exceeds anything that should be in a memorandum of understanding. It's unnecessarily complex. I would resist any attempt to make it more complex, but since it's already been passed by the school committee and signed by the superintendent, I would be happy agreeing to that burden.
Right. I think, if we move along and we need to do something different, then we can always revisit it. So I will make a motion that we execute the memorandum of understanding for the school resource officer.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we thank you, Chief Nelson.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Execute the warrant for the 2017 state election on December 5th, 2017.
Yes, 3 copies.
Just the chief.
Oh, Chief signing.
Yeah.
Yep, there's-
Want me to sign your name for you?
Chief, you're gonna sign these?
I have the original from the.
He has the
original. Do I need it?
Ah.
Oh, yes.
All right.
I can sign this and then get you.
Okay, and then you'll get me a copy.
That's part of the chain of evidence, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got the warrant for the 2017 state election to sign?
Yeah. We all signing this? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You are all signing.
We'll fill in the date when you're done.
Sure. All right, Ken.
Do we have to do this in order, or can we,
However you choose. Flip on to the back page now.
So we have a request from concerned residents and taxpayers of Bolton that the town join more than 350 cities and towns throughout the country that support the terms of the 2015 Paris Climate Accord by endorsing the non-binding resolution attached.
I don't believe you need to read the entire resolution, but if the board is so inclined, you can reference the document and then vote however you choose to vote.
Are any of the residents here? Do we have a motion in support of the?
You comfortable with this, Bob?
I am not. I will finish signing that later. I am not comfortable with this because I don't think it's a fit subject for the Board of Selectmen to be opining on. The Paris Climate Accords are not a declaration of the state of the science on climate change. They are dedicated to the economic and political consequences of dealing with that. I don't think we could accurately say that we represent the town's political views on any political or economic issue. The town does not look to us to select a governor for them, select a state representative, vote on behalf of any referendums. This is a similar issue. I don't think I would prefer not to vote on this at all, but if it comes to a vote, I will vote against it, simply because I don't think it's an appropriate thing, not because I'm for or against the Paris Climate Accords, but I don't think it's an appropriate thing for the Board of Selectmen to be representing themselves for the political views of the town of Bolton. To sort of emphasize one other point, this board has spent more than a year discussing a memorandum of understanding with the school district. And in less than 5 minutes of debate, we're going to settle the question of the Paris Climate Accord. I think doing that would make us look very small.
I'd say that this is, it's non-binding. I think it's symbolic. I have 2 kids, and they ask me what is my generation doing, and what are we leaving them. So I think symbols are important. We are symbolic as Board of Selectmen. Our roles in the town. So I think this is, as stated, it's part of, we are a green community. I think this just adds to that, and I think it stands as a symbol for our children that this is something that we take very seriously.
If we took it seriously, why did we permit a bonfire a little earlier this evening?
We in the past have been asked to sign, not necessarily something similar to this, but non-binding resolution or a statement of support. And we have declined in the past for many of the same reasons, similar reasons as my colleague Bob Sikansky has just indicated. Not that in general, it's a good thing to deal with climate destruction and all that good stuff, but I think in terms of the arguments that Mr. Sikansky had indicated, I think it's probably better for us to decline. If there's something else we can do in lieu of this, or some other type of pledge that might be less political but deal with the same effect, I think that would be better. But I think we have declined signing things like this in the past, and I think we should continue that practice of this type of nature. So I'm not in favor of signing it.
Okay,
Fully support the climate, dealing with the climate and all that, but not in this particular fashion.
Okay, we'll pass over that. Set the Board of Selectmen's meeting schedule for 2018.
As Linda and I try to do, we submitted a proposed schedule for the board, try to maintain the 2 meetings a month. And we've got the dates, we've highlighted the dates on the calendar. Right out to May 3rd. May 3rd would be a meeting would be the meeting immediately prior to town meeting. And then presumably we wouldn't meet again until May 17th, which would be after the May election.
Okay.
But trying to take into consideration different holidays and different milestones within the budget. For instance, March 22nd would be the date, and it's earlier than normal, but it would be the date that we would close the warrant, and the selectmen would be signing the warrant.
Okay.
So unless it conflicts with anyone's schedules, and as you know, if any scheduling conflicts come up, the Board of Selectmen have the practice of either pushing a meeting out to accommodate a colleague, or if there's something that, like a poll hearing or something that could be time sensitive, we would hold a meeting, but we wouldn't have anything of highly important nature on that agenda, and it would be deferred to the next meeting when the full board could be there. So, so unless any of you have any scheduling conflicts, I think this schedule probably will work well for you.
I wouldn't know if I have any scheduling conflicts now, so this looks fine to me.
Can we sleep on it?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So this is for your consideration.
Great.
I've got no issues with it. But I may have one if we drag this on too long.
So we have approved bills, payroll warrants, W18-09 and W18-09A, W18-10 and W18-10A.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So those were, you actually signed them last meeting. so
Okay.
they're all set. Just
And we
to
have
do the
minutes.
Minutes, yeah.
Minutes.
Will I sign for meetings on this?
So we just divide these up and start signing off.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the regular session minutes of March 16th, May 25th, June 15th, July 18th, August 31st, September 14th, October 17th, 2017, and executive session minutes of May 25, August 31st, September 14th, 2017.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You abstain, Bob?
I will abstain, thank you. Oh, hi, Bert.
Congratulations on your hard work.
Thank you, thank you.
So we will be going into executive session. We will be coming out if we have information to relate on, for an update on negotiations related to the purchase price of Camp Virginia.
Mr. Chairman, just to advise, you would need to state now that we will be re-adjourning into open session, even if we find that there's nothing to state. You would need to say now that we do plan to adjourn into open session, and then we would adjourn back into executive session for the second item.
You'll call us before you start, I presume. You hang out and all.
No, we have to open the door.
Yes. So what Don said. So we're going to go into executive session pursuant of Massachusetts General Laws C period 30A, 21A6 to consider the purchase of Camp Virginia as the chair finds that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. The board will reconvene to open session.
I'll move that.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Don has a statement.
Summary and a statement. So, a week ago Monday, as authorized by the Board of Selectmen, I contacted Lee Freudenstein, who was the realtor for the Girl Scouts for the Camp Virginia property. And in that executive session, the Board of Selectmen had authorized me to go as high as $800,000 as an initial offer for the property. Mr. Freudenstein's response to me was, I will take that offer back to my client, but I already know that it will be rejected. I shared with him that, some of the community was concerned by the extensive logging that was done on the property, and we felt that that had an impact on the price. He understood our concerns, but didn't necessarily feel that it did have a negative impact on the property. He informed me that he's speaking with a couple of other interested parties, so we are not the only interested party talking to him about this property. I then went on to inform him that I wasn't violating any executive session or confidentiality, to say that the wording in the citizen's petition as submitted to the warrant has a dollar value in it of $1,050,000, and that would be the number that that would be going before the town meeting for consideration. He then informed me that if we were to offer $1,050,000, that proposal would not be accepted, and that the figure would need to be higher than that. Not only did I have no authorization from the Board of Selectmen to go any higher than that, but I couldn't even go as high as that. But since this is a citizen's petition cannot be changed in any form until it gets to town meeting. Not by the Board of Selectmen, not by the petitioner, not by anybody. So we really did not have a lot of room to further discuss that. However, well into the conversation, when I referenced the two house lots that have been discussed frequently, he made it clear to me that those two house lots are not even on the table right now. They're not entertaining offers on that from anybody, and that they, what?
Should the TV be on?
I'm sorry?
Should we be on film for this?
I don't know, they don't always come back on,
Okay.
so I don't know.
What did they know? He's upstairs.
We turned it off when we went into executive session.
Right, of course.
So,
But nobody told them, because I didn't go up to tell them. Yeah, we probably should be, but it's too late now.
Okay.
yeah, I didn't even think about it. Where was I?
Sorry, Don.
The two house
Two
lots
house-
are
The
on
two
the-
house
The two house
lots.
lots, that the two house lots are not even being considered right now. They're not on, they're not offering them right now, so any other party that they're talking to that we may be, for lack of a better term, bidding against, is also not bidding on the lots. They have a much higher view of the value of the 50 acres, plus or minus, than we do, or than we do currently. So,
And then the appraisal.
yeah.
Either appraisal, it's higher
Right.
than.
Right, right. Their initial appraisal was 1.3 million. Their second one was 1.45. Should I at least turn the TV, I'm sorry, but should I at least turn the TV on? Do you want me to do that?
I guess so. I know a lot of people gonna wanna watch this, but they'll be
Well, if
relying
you're
on.
gonna turn it
our
back on,
newspaper.
you're gonna have to start all over, because
I will.
you can't just pick it up in the,
No, you're right.
That's,
And
Sorry, I didn't
we're gonna
realize.
have to let them know, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize that you
I assumed something
had,
had.
yeah, I'm sorry.
all right.
there we go.
He's waiting for you.
Well, were they recording all the time then?
No, he was
No.
just
No.
probably coming down. 'cause-
There's a dead switch right there that
Oh,
we
okay.
turn off.
We're good. You
Okay.
turned it on.
All right, you want me to take it from the top?
No, you don't have to, because he said that when he saw me come into the room,
Oh, so it just wasn't on there?
yes,
Okay.
it wasn't turned on there, but he saw me come into the room, so then he turned it on, so.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
So they captured
so-
everything?
They have the audio.
That's
in
good,
it?
because I couldn't stand to hear this again.
Yes. Surprised me, but you're good.
Let's see if I say it the same twice, but, all right, so, So the two house lots are not currently even part of the discussion, but they clearly see the value of the property higher than $1,050,000, X the house lots, X the lot for the cell tower. So what we know to be, based on the conversation I had, what we know to be true is that what I've been told is the article as written will not get a deal done. So we will walk into town meeting without having a deal done, and then town meeting will need to discuss the impact of that and discuss whatever options may be put out there for the town meeting to consider or not. But where we stand right now is we cannot achieve a deal before town meeting because the number that's in the article is not sufficient.
Can I ask a question?
It's up to the chair.
Can I ask it?
Sure.
So at the time you were speaking to Lee, you were authorized by the Board of Selectmen to offer the $800,000.
Yes.
And then you mentioned the number in the, in the warrant.
Right, public record, yep.
Public record warrant, but you had not yet been authorized by the Selectmen to offer that figure.
I didn't offer it.
But you mentioned it to him.
Of course, it's public record, why not?
Well, he said that's what the town was voting on.
Well, but I guess what I'm wondering is, do you have any time to talk to him again before the special town meeting?
Could talk to him tomorrow.
So if the board authorized you to offer as an actual offer, not just a number that's in a warrant, is this board willing, do you know what I'm saying? Are they going to authorize you to actually offer that number? In other words,
I need the board to answer that.
My initial reaction would be, when Don mentioned that number, he got no encouragement.
True.
And if there was some interest and some encouragement, then there'd be something to think about and to talk about. But is it fair to say the only message you got was discouraging?
It was not encouraging.
Okay.
I'll look at it more positively, I guess. But no, it's, I thought it might facilitate things to make sure that he knew what was already on public record, that what the figure was that was in the article, because I thought it might expedite things. And I guess it did to us, depending on your perspective, it did, because he said that the exact quote was, $1,050,000 will not get it done.
So it really doesn't matter whether we offer it or not. He already knows what the warrant article has in it. And we have no authority to make any change to that. So that's the number for the moment. So.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Thanks for entertaining my question.
All right. And just to reiterate one thing I said before, because people do get confused, because we don't get a lot of citizens petitions, so people aren't as well-versed on them as they are with just the standard articles. A citizen's petition cannot be changed until it gets to town meeting floor. So we really don't have any running room here.
I guess if I may, Ken Troop, obviously. I guess the only thing we could say is basically to call their bluff. That if the town meeting approved the article as it's written, then that it would be more persuasive to him than simply saying, well, we might be willing to do this, but we don't know if the town's going to vote for it. But if the town voted for it and the town approved the debt exclusion, then you would actually have something.
Mm-hmm. They would have cash.
You would have cash to give to him as opposed to not.
Mm-hmm.
And probably by then, you would know whether or not the grant was awarded as well. So you would have met all of the steps that you needed to meet, and then, yes, they could still turn it down, but you would at least be authorized to do that.
That's correct.
And who knows, if they really have somebody else, then and are willing to go that high. I'm surprised that, well, anyway, that's interesting.
So what's our timeline, John?
Well, our timeline is, really between now and November 27th, there's really not much else for us to do. I will call Lee and let him know that, I'll just reaffirm to him really, because I already said to him, what we've already discussed, but, I'll just reaffirm to him that, we'll be going into town meeting. We're still, obviously still having the town meeting. It'll be discussed at town meeting, and once town meeting is completed, whatever comes out of town meeting, I will report back to him, but at this point, I really don't have anything else for him. Now, who knows, maybe when I call him and I tell him where we are, maybe the position may change, I don't know, but, all we can go by is what we know right now.
Yep. Well, we always put the sign back up.
The sign is definitely going back up. It was a perfectly amicable discussion, very professional. It was, very matter of fact, but very professional to deal with.
Okay.
So it sounds like there, that we have the seller's evaluation of the land, we did an evaluation.
We did.
But and so those were between 1.3 and 1.45?
Well, that's a good point, Jonathan. I'm glad you brought that up. Because our appraisal, we had two numbers in the appraisal, including the house lots and X the house lots.
So, yeah, including the lots.
And X the house lots was, I think, 776,000, is that right?
Right.
And with the house lots was 1.125, I think?
Right, and theirs was the 105. That's the thing that's perplexing, and that may be where you're going with it, but we basically matched their appraisal, and yet they're saying their appraisal isn't good enough.
They're saying their appraisal, isn't good enough, plus $400,000 for the two lots.
Right.
All right, so
they're greedy.
They may call it maximizing their assets, but yes, it's certainly.
The fiduciary responsibility is.
Certainly looking at, so, yes, our appraisal said 776 for the 50 acres, not including the house lots, et cetera. And when indicated that the article was $1,050,000, that was not sufficient, at least not at the time. So,
that's all you can do.
So to the Board of Selectmen's credit, they felt that once they discussed this information, they wanted to make an announcement tonight so that both, so that everybody was aware of this, so you were aware of it, so that the general public was aware of it, so they could be more informed heading into town meeting.
But so the offer hasn't been made of $1,050,000.
No, there's not been a formal offer made at $1,050,000.
And so
But the town meeting could authorize you to do that if you so chose.
That's right. So unless anyone has any questions for me, that's where we are.
One question, can it go up in town meeting? Typically you can't go up.
That's a good question. The tradition of the town is that you cannot go up on a borrowing article like that. There is no mass general law that precludes that. But the practice of the town, the policy of the town, whatever the tradition of the town, whatever word you want to use, has been that the number does not go up.
do you think it's a missed opportunity not to make that offer formally of the $1,050,000?
No, I don't think it makes any difference. I think you can just as easily do it afterwards. I mean, I think if the town meeting were to approve it, and I'm sure, well, I'm not but I would guess if the town meeting approved it, they would probably also approve the debt exclusion. I think having those two things in your pocket would be cash, basically, and that would at least call their bluff as to whether what they want is cash or whether they're willing to wait for more. So, no, I don't think it's necessary to do anything else except see what happens at the town meeting.
And I guess it's time to go back into executive session again.
Yes.
I appreciate the information, thank you.
Thank you for waiting.
Sure.
So we're going to go back into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law C, period 30A, 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for the police union, as the chair finds that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board's bargaining position. The board will not reconvene to open session.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Kansky.
Aye.
Keith.
Yes.
Wasaki.
Yes.